Well, good afternoon. It is Monday, the 14th of October. And October, yes, we are getting towards the business end of the year, and has it gone quickly? Well, I'm going to chat to you a little bit about what's going on in markets here in Australia and overseas, as well as give you a bit of an update on the regulatory scene and a bit of an overview of what else is in this month's news update. But firstly, to markets, and the big news recently has been the decision by the Reserve Bank to cut interest rates yet again. So we're now at 0.75%, a new record. And I think it's fair to say that we should probably expect more cuts, and possibly before Christmas. This has been pretty well telegraphed by the Reserve Bank. And it's largely in response to some softer data here in Australia, particularly around inflation and economic growth. But it's largely lock and step with what central banks are doing overseas. And it's really about managing international competitiveness by making sure that our Australian dollar doesn't become strong as a result of higher relative interest rates compared to other countries around the world. So it's really in response to what's going on overseas, and there has been a coordinated response overseas in relation to central banks cutting rates due to slower economic growth. Now, slower growth was not something that was a surprise after coming off the back of very strong growth about a year and a half ago. The world has slowed down, but what has exacerbated the problem is the ongoing trade tensions between the US and China. And really, when you start to impact trade flows, that can have a meaningful impact on investment and growth. And there are boards all around the world that are responsible for the investment decisions of large corporations that are really forced to sit on their hands because of the general environment of uncertainty that has resulted from these trade tensions. Now, where is it going to go from here is really anyone's guess. We're certainly not going to see China back down. And so it largely depends probably on the next moves from the US. And while this has been a very strong line that's been put forward by Donald Trump, there has been evidence in recent economic data from the US that things are starting to bite on the US economy. And that really has the potential to impact his re-election prospects. Now, he may decide to want to go into next year's election as a wartime president, fighting this trade war against China, but the American presidency is largely influenced by economics. And we've recently seen some headlines coming out of a partial trade deal, so we may see some sort of easing of trade tensions. But look, this is an issue that is really not going to go away for many, many years to come. We're seeing two very large powers starting to face off against each other, and trade is just one facet of that. So expect probably more uncertainty around this area, and markets and investments or investment decisions around the world are certainly not going to like that environment. Closer to home, well, the economic data has been a bit soft, but the lower interest rates certainly have given the property market a welcome boost, though I think there will be a lot of people or central banks or say regulators watching very cautiously not to trigger another cycle of growth like we saw in the lead up to 2017. But there has been a meaningful recovery in property prices in Sydney and Melbourne as a result of the lower interest rates and improved confidence off the back of the election earlier in the year. On the regulatory side, well, the government has recently announced a review into the retirement income system. What does that mean? Well, it's basically looking into the age pension. It's looking at means testing around the age pension. It also has a look at superannuation, voluntary as well as compulsory contributions into superannuation, as well as the tax breaks in super. Now, a review in this area is welcome, but it always sends shudders up and down my spine when someone talks about a review and superannuation in the same sentence. And I think we do need to prepare ourselves that there are going to be changes to the superannuation system as a result of this. And it's probably fair to say that those changes generally lead to making the system tighter. So I will certainly be keeping a close eye on this report and what the government decides to do. And ultimately, it is probably going to have an impact on how we look at superannuation and the strategy that we've set up for you. And it's a bit of a wait and see. Another thing that's recently come out is another review into the banking system. This time the ACCC reviewing the banks and how they pass on interest rate cuts from the Reserve Bank. A little bit of a political response, I believe. I'm not sure how far this will go, but certainly one area which I think will be interesting that the ACCC will be tasked to look at is how banks may make it difficult to switch providers of a mortgage. And I think there may be some findings there. So we'll wait and see on that one as well. So anyway, also in this month's update, you'll see a podcast from me, some general comments from me really on financial strategy and asset class investing, just putting it up there on the website to share. There are thematics there that many of you will have heard from me before in our conversations. Spotlight this month on a fund in focus is on our student accommodation investment a few years ago that has settled at the end of September and performed well. Another example of patient capital for investors there. And a tip of the month around excess contributions in superannuation for high income earners, which generally find or do find excess concessional contributions going into their fund. The ATO has made some changes or a little bit more flexibility about what you can do in that regard. Anyway, that's it from me. I hope this finds you well. I will be heading off to the Rugby World Cup on Thursday to see 2 quarterfinals and then the semi-finals the following week. I may only see Australia once, but I will be supporting the Wallabies against England over there this Saturday. I will be contactable, but I also look forward to catching up and chatting when I'm back. Bye for now.